doing, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of The Winner's Culture, where we like to highlight the journey to success, not the glory that you often see. I got my co-host with me as always. To my right,
it's just JJ.
And then to my left,
hey y'all, it's Blondie.
Oh, she Blondie today. And y'all know me, I'm just Daryl, man. 1 R, 1 Y, 1 L. Please don't mess that up. I know I always tell y'all again, we got a special episode. But again, we got a special episode. This one was a long time coming. I'm excited about it, man. We got Diamond, who is the creative marketing coordinator of RecPhilly, with us. How are you feeling?
Hi.
What's going on,
welcome.
Diamond?
What's going on?
Hey, y'all. Thanks for having me. I'm a
We
fan.
appreciate
I'm a fan.
you. We appreciate you being
How you
here.
doing today?
I'm good. How are y'all?
Good, just all around.
Good.
Good.
Cool. I can't complain. You know, still
Good.
thugging. That's what's important.
Thugging with your rounds.
Yeah, you see what I get into. You see it, man.
How long you been thugging to be still thugging?
Since birth, actually.
Oh my god,
I think it happened at conception. And
y'all, he been lying unprovoked all day.
All day.
it really just
You've been thugging since birth?
yeah,
Wow.
and it really just was a constant progression.
I'm
You see what I'm saying?
thugging with my round.
So
Here
it's like, but more importantly, can you tell us about yourself, who you are, where you're from?
Yes.
Yeah.
So my name is Diamond. I am a little bit of everything. So writer, creative strategist, a marketer, really all things music mostly. But I kind of like have my hands in a couple other things like film, fashion, those kind of things. But yeah, mostly music.
Okay.
Born and raised in Philly.
Yeah.
Born and raised in Philly,
That's
of
what I was
course.
going. Where you went to high school?
I went to Parkway Northwest, but I
Okay.
ended up graduating from New Media Technology Charter School, which is now closed down. But yeah, that's where I ended up graduating from.
Is that how you got into marketing, the tech side of things, you know?
Yes. So that was when I first knew I had an interest for like tech and just media in general, because that was the first time I was exposed to it. And I actually didn't go there until senior year. So like my first year there was my senior year. I loved it a lot, which made me want to go to school for multimedia journalism. So yeah,
Okay.
that's where I kind of like found my initial passion.
Oh, that's fire. So that's what you picked up in college. You
Yep.
went in college for
Multimedia journalism with a minor in marketing. Yep.
And how did you get started in entertainment?
So I don't know. I feel like I always kind of had like a creative mind, but I just didn't know it when I was younger. So like I always knew that I was really good at writing, and I knew that I wanted to go to school for journalism. Because at the time, like around the time I was in high school, the blog era was like a big deal. So like all the music came through with like articles. Fader was a big deal. Complex was out. So that was what I was heavily into. And I would watch interviews on YouTube all day, every day. That was like my thing. That was what I was into as a kid. So I knew that I wanted to tell stories in that way. But by the time I got to college, like print media kind of started to die. Like you started to see that like more people doing storytelling content through like digital mediums, which made me want to get into marketing, because I was like, in my mind, that was where like journalism and storytelling meet, is in marketing campaigns and like what you see everywhere. So that was kind of how I got into it. I started taking up marketing classes my junior year, and at the time it's so funny because I was so nervous that I would never be taken seriously as a marketer, because I didn't have like a marketing degree, only a marketing minor. So yeah, that was like that's really how I got into entertainment. I always knew I wanted to do something in music. So it kind of just all like fell into place.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So out of college, how did you try to put that into action? Because I know for creatives it's often difficult. Like we can go to school, get a degree for it, but like finding the pathway. So what was that like when you graduated?
Yeah, so graduation was crazy. So around like senior year of college, I felt like I was in a school of media. A lot of the people in my major were doing a whole bunch of things. There was like music producers, there were PR people that just worked in communications in general. And I was like, I didn't have no idea what I was going to do. But every year that I was in college, I would apply to the Rock Nation residency program. So they have like, they don't call it internships because it's much more hands-on, and like you're there 9 to 5, you actually like work there. So they call it a residency program. But it's very like hard to get into. They only take a couple of people, and they only take one resident for each department that they have. So every year I would apply and I would get rejected. So as I was looking for jobs, as I was about to graduate, I was like, okay, it came up again that they were looking for summer interns. And I was like, let me just apply. Like, I always do, so why not? And I sent it in, and I ended up getting a call back from Bree Bird, who is now at Spotify Podcast, but she was the creative strategist for Rock Nation at the time. And she was like, hey, like, and mind you, I had no idea what creative strategist was. That was my first time hearing that term. But she interviewed me, and she ended up offering me the role. And that was when I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. Like, I didn't know before. I kind of like, when you're interested in the creative industry, you can be interested in so many things. Like, for a moment, I thought I wanted to be a photographer. For the longest time, I thought, first I was like, I'm just going to be a marketer. I'm just going to be a writer. I'm just going to be these things. But that was like when I found out like you can do it all in one. And I was like, okay, like this is what I want to do. So yeah, that was how I kind of like put it into action post college. And it really just takes one opportunity. Like, if you think you can't break out into a certain lane, like it really just takes that one small opportunity that leads to others. Because now I have conversations with people and they're like, oh, you don't have a marketing degree? They're so shocked because it feels like I went to school for it, but which I did. Like I did study it to some capacity, but yeah, that's really kind of like how it started.
That's fire. Yes. Especially like to continue to apply. What was like
yeah.
that mental process like because to make that your ritual, like,
and
I'm
it
gonna just
couldn't
apply
have been
again.
an easy application process.
Yeah.
It's not, but Rock Nation was my dream job in college. So when I kept seeing the residency program, I'm like, I have to, like, in my mind, it would have been like the best thing, which it was. It ended up being one of the best things that's ever happened to me. But then when you're younger, like everything seems like such a big deal. So I was like, if I got that, I was like, life would be amazing, because I knew that if I got that, it would just like keep going up. And like, it's like when you intern at Rock Nation, you can only go up from there. So that was my thought process behind it. So I was like, if I keep going, I keep applying, I will always apply to different things. Because when you're working in marketing and creative, a lot of things are like adjacent to each other. You got creative strategists, you got marketers, you got people who just do like presentations and decks and stuff like that. So I was really just looking for an in, because I was like, if I get in, I'm not gonna leave. That was my thought process. I'm like, if I get in, they're gonna want to hire me. I'm gonna work there forever. So yeah, it was really the motivation of that was my dream job, and it was always where I wanted to end up, like a Black-owned record label. That was just like what I wanted. So I was like, I'm not gonna stop. Yeah.
So when you say you keep applying, like every year, so like freshman year is what you're saying? Like freshman year, sophomore year, junior year?
Yeah, I applied the summer going in, like the summer after I finished my freshman year, I applied. Then I applied again sophomore year. Then I applied again junior year. And then senior year, I wasn't going to apply because it's an unpaid residency. Keep in mind, you are working 9 to 5 unpaid. And when you're about to graduate college, you're like, I don't have no room for unpaid internships anymore. I need a paid position. So I wasn't even thinking about applying, but it came up in my job search. And at the time, I had nothing on my radar. And in my building, like, you know how colleges are separated by major. In the specific school that I was in, I was very like well known. I was on executive boards for a whole bunch of things, and I was in student government. So when I would talk to people as graduation got closer, the number one question was like, where are you going after graduation? And like everybody had all these major plans. And again, I was in journalism school, so a lot of people were like going to work for like Wall Street Journal and like going to big companies with full-time offers. And I was sitting there like, I don't know where I'm going. Like I have no plan. So I was like, the worst case is like I get it and I figure things out later, was my kind of thought process behind it. Yeah.
That's fire. So then you got it, boom. So then like Rock Nation is where?
In New York.
And you live?
Philly. I was
you
in
driving
Philly
every
at the
day?
time. I was not.
Oh, all right. I was about to say that's. I mean, still living in New York is crazy too.
Yeah. So I got it after I graduated. I got like a whole bunch of like money through just like cards and stuff like that. So I had saved it all. And my first initial thought process was like, maybe I'll get like a Greyhound pass and like go to New York every day. That was just my initial thought. So I looked and it was not feasible. It was not feasible for what I had. So I ended up using the money to live in New York for the first 2.5 weeks of my internship or my residency to get like just acclimated with like the building and stuff like that. And then for the rest of the time, I caught the bus every single day. 4 a.m. I would wake up to get to the like bus stop downtown at 6 a.m. that would get me to New York at about 8:30 a.m. with traffic. And then I would work from 9 to 5 and catch the bus back to Philly, and then wake up every day and do it on repeat for free. For free.
And how long did you do this?
I did it for about 4 or 5 months. I did it for about 4 or 5 months. So it was
every day?
Every day from 9 to 5. And then honestly, I was very naive at the time in my thought process of thinking like 5 o'clock, because I just graduated, so it was my first like real job. So at 5 p.m. I'm thinking 5 p.m. people get up and go. And when you work if anybody who's listening, or you guys, if you work in the music industry, there's no going at the time that they say that you're gonna go. So I didn't know that at the time. So when I was getting up and leaving at 5, everyone in my residency cohort was still there. Like, they were working for free. Sometimes till like the building was open 24/7, so they would be working there sometimes till like 8 o'clock at night, and I would feel terrible because I would be getting on the bus. And it's like, if I lived in New York, I would stay, because that's the type of worker that I am. Like, when I love something, I'm there. Like, I'll be there till they turn the lights off if we need to be, but I couldn't be. So that was just like really hard. So Roc Nation was a crazy experience. Yeah.
You hear that, kids?
Adults, what are you talking
right,
about? Kids,
yeah.
Like, it can't be no excuses in this world, because
if you really want it,
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, like, and I don't come from a family of creatives, like most of us don't. My mom, somebody who's worked a job her whole life since she was younger than me, she could not understand for the life of her why I would take an unpaid internship after college. Like, she was like, this is the dumbest thing, but still she was supporting me. Like, she would, like, she would take me to the bus stop sometimes if I needed her to, and like, she was there, but she was like so confused. But me, I knew that there was more to come after that, and like, it was just kind of like a stepping stone. It was really me laying the foundation, because I wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for that experience. So
that's something we talk about often. Like, the path for creators is totally, there's no set path. Like, and I think sometimes we talk about what our families not understanding that as well. It's like, sometimes the moves, because they are so unconventional, it is because the goal and the way to get there has to be unconventional. There is no direct pathway to reach wherever you want to be if you want to be successful as a creator. How do y'all feel about like some of your own personal internship experiences? Like, I know you just spoke to yours, like, but was that similar for y'all as far as y'all routes?
Yeah, so
internship life.
Yeah,
we all come from the trenches.
So coming out of college, I was a kinesiology major, exercise science. Kinesiology is the study of human movement, if you didn't know. You see what I'm saying? I'm a scientist, y'all. What can I say? Yeah, coming out of college, I was that. And so I had a homie who worked in the gym. I was that because I was an athlete all my life. I had a homie working in the gym. And he was like, my brother is some higher up at Temple. It can get you in at Temple to intern as a strength and conditioning coach at Temple. And that was my first experience, because all throughout my life I had never had a real strength and conditioning coach. So I didn't even really know what that entailed. Like, up until that point, other coaches were just teaching us how to lift weights. Like, people who weren't specialized in it, that just coached, would just teach, lift the weight, push the weight, or lift it up, or whatever. Nobody really teaching no technique or nothing like that. So I had no clue what I was really getting into. Signed up for Temple. Temple is a Division I program, so they take sports very seriously. Like, all of the facilities, all of the people, it was just a very serious thing. And so I get to Temple, and very similar to you, I'm waking up at 4 a.m. every day, because I had to be at Temple at 5:30 every day. And my day went from 5:15 to 6 p.m. every day. And then on the weekends, like, basically we had a playbook, like a book of coaching strategies and exercises, and you're expected to be able to do every exercise that you teach, and you expected to be able to teach every exercise to perfection. Like, I have to be able to demonstrate it. I have to be able to tell you all my talking and technique points, which is in this book. So it feels like a script. I'm acting kind of, because I have all this memorized. So on the weekend I'll be going over my script. That's exactly what it be. I would get my other homie, shout out to She, who was on here earlier, and he was interning at Villanova at the time, and that was the year Villanova actually won the national championship. So it was going crazy over there, and we going over our scripts together, like making it smooth, and then we would run it every week. And that was my first internship experience. And then my second one was Milk Boy the Studio, which was another thing. I was mopping floors and painting stuff over there. Goodness. Like that was that. But yeah, both unpaid experiences, but both were really worth it. I still have a lot of the connections I made, because it's like, it feels like, I don't know how people describe what pledging is. Like, you just giving of yourself, but the people who are around you, like, you connect with and you build a network with, and I can still hit those people up today. What about y'all?
I agree. Well, my story is pretty similar to y'all's. I had talked about my situation after college in another podcast, but the solution to all of that was I ended up living with my family in Jersey, and I wasn't driving at the time. And I remember I got this, I got a job. It was part-time. My grandma worked for the company, 30 some years. She knew the lady, and I was an assistant coordinator in HR. And, it was easy enough because my major was communications, and I was into PR journalism. So I said, okay, whatever. I just need to do something. So I was doing part-time in HR and then working part-time at the hair salon, the one I work at now. So I would wake up at 4 a.m. to catch a ride to Philly from Jersey with my aunt or my uncle. And then they would drop me off at on Delaware Ave, Spring Garden, where the Dave & Buster's is, and I would catch the train from there to 69th Street. And then from 69th Street to Norristown, because that's where the corporate office was. I would work there from 9 to 5, 3-4 days a week. And then when I left the office, I would catch the train to West Philly where the shop was, and then I would take my clients or braid for, the owner. Then I would catch an Uber to Greyhound and then catch the bus back to Jersey to get home. I probably would get home at 12:30, something like that. And then, get a couple hours of sleep or do whatever I had to do, to make more money, maybe do a wig, do something like that. And then, another fun fact, I had to retake a class in college because, they hold your degree, your transcripts, and all that other funny stuff. I had to retake a class. So I also, in the midst of that, I was redoing this class to get that 1 or 2 credits, something so stupid. But yeah, and then I would wake back up. I would get in the house probably 1, do whatever, wake back up at 4 and do it all over again.
What,
and,
yo?
And then the days I wasn't working at the office, I would braid for the owner all day. We would go from 9 to maybe 6ish. Then I would take my own clients after that to build up my clientele.
That's why your prices look like that.
Period.
Yeah.
Listen, we work hard over here.
They say you're paying for somebody's experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Real right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
I agree.
it's crazy, but it did all work out.
What about you? You had a experience like that?
My joints was more so related to film. So I would say I used to always feel like I wanted to make movies. I still do. But before I got to get on my first film set, I had no idea what it was really like. And it was a director was in the city. He's now in Vegas now in LA. Late I hear he gave me the opportunity to not only shoot BTS, but to also help out with the crew. So he gave me the call times, the locations, X, Y, and Z. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm excited. It was the pilot for a show he was actually shopping. So I go, and I think we started at 9. Crew got there at 9. Talent got there at 10. Set up the shots, everything like that. And I'm excited, man. We get in there, and I'm just thinking back. We set up the first camera, and when you're dealing with cinema cameras, it's not just a tripod. I'm actually, no, it's not. So you got to put together the rails to actually hold the shot. God forbid if you get motion in your shot, you got to build the extra rail to lay on top so that you can put the glider on top of that to slide the camera the same way. So setting up alone is going to run you anywhere from an hour to 2 hours. Cords, cameras, memory cards, the whole 9 yards. So that's that. But nonetheless, I'm still excited. We do that. And then he's like, all right, we've wrapped this whole situation up. And then he's like, yeah, we're going to go to the second location. And I'm like, okay, all right, cool. Second location is from 12 to 4. I'm All right, cool. Same thing,
right.
but then we starting to carry sandbags and lifting lights and the equipment. I'm still excited, but it's like, oh, all right, it's a little real. That rap, I'm like, all right, we about to get something to eat. You know what I'm saying? Everybody go Now we're going to the third location. I'm like, huh? Third location. That's from like 6 to probably, I want to say like 12. And from that point, I'm looking at the battery that everybody else has. Everybody else is just like on it, moving.
Right.
And I learned so much just from being able to work and him giving me that opportunity to work on the pilot. I was able to learn, like, one, the passion is not enough. Mm-hmm. You got to be able to have a battery. You got to know what you're getting yourself into. Mm-hmm. And when you actually get hands-on with the work, that will really iron out if you built and if you really want to do what you say you want to do. Sure. But in the reflection of it, it was a great opportunity. I'm definitely thankful for it to be able to learn.
For sure.
And go through it.
Diamond, did yours pay off for you? Like coming out of, what did you do after?
I would say initially it didn't. I had a hard time finding something when I was like done with Rock Nation, partially because in Philly we don't really have a lot of like music infrastructure. So if you want to work in the music industry, you have very limited options. And I still wanted to work in the music industry. I wanted to do exactly what I was doing there, but just here. So didn't have any options. So it took me a while. And I started off teaching like digital media and like marketing workshops around the city.
Shout out to the teachers.
Yes. Shout out to the teachers, the educators. I started doing that, and then that ended up me full-time teaching for a little while before I ended up getting back into marketing.
Were you still doing your creative endeavors while you was like doing projects on the side? Like,
yeah, so I was like taking on like small little campaigns. Like people would contract me for small things. People would contract me for like graphic design gigs as well, because I have like I do have some graphic design experience and just overall like artistic eye, or like I'm good with like art direction. So I was doing that, ended up starting to teach, and then I got back into marketing, working for a natural hair care brand under Shea Moisture, and that was pretty fun. And then I was doing that and teaching at the same time for a long time. Yeah,
hustle been elite for a minute now.
yeah, it was crazy.
Wow. So you said that you started working with the kids. You was a teacher. That's really where I met you at.
Yes. You know, we met in the classroom.
Yeah, met in the classroom. We had a really great conversation for our first conversation.
Yeah. Ever. No, we like we connected instantly. That's crazy.
That was a good joint.
Shout out to that.
But you said you was a teacher. So where did your passion for the youth come from? Like why teaching? Like and what was your upbringing like to give you that passion?
Yeah. So I feel like you asked two questions, but I feel like both kind of like tie into each other. Like I feel like my own childhood kind of gave me that love for the youth, because I feel like I had such, like, when I think back on my like youth, I had really bad identity issues. Like I didn't know who I was or like what I wanted to be, and because of that I was just acting out a lot. Like I used to fight a lot when I was young, and I got kicked out of school.
You used to fight a lot. Yeah. You used to fight a lot.
He knows this.
No way, yo.
Yeah, no, I can't believe it. Like it's actually so embarrassing. But yeah, I used to, and like I was so problematic when I was younger. Like 9th grade me, even middle school me, I was so problematic and chaotic because I just didn't know who I was. Like I was just doing anything. So because of that, I didn't have like anybody that I really could say I looked up to outside the norm. Like when kids be like, oh yeah, like I look up to my mom, and like but like I'm talking about who I wanted to be. Like I didn't have somebody, or like even somebody in my immediate life that went to college. Like I'm a first generation college grad. Like I never had any of that. So it was just a lot of me figuring it out as I went. And I knew very early on like the power of having that kind of person in your life, and like what that can do for you, and like just having somebody who's close to you. Is different when it's celebrities and idols and all that, but I'm talking about somebody like in your city, somebody on your block that came from where you came from and is doing what you want to do. Like having that example in your life is crazy as a resource and all of that. So yeah, that's really where it came from. And when I started doing it, it was something I was just doing to make money initially, but once I started teaching, I loved it, and I feel like I'll always go back to teaching.
I think that's powerful to say like that you kind of recognize the importance of a role model because of the absence in your life, and then to actually put that into practice by feeling it for other children in the city. what was that process, I guess, like exploring who you were and learning who you are, and then how did you help the kids to navigate that when you were educating?
Yeah, my process of learning who I was really didn't come till college, honestly. Like, I graduated from Morgan State University, shout out to MSU, and just, like, going to HBCU changed my life completely. Like, I had no idea that Black people could come together in such, like, a large quantity like that, and everybody just be so dope and creative and loving and supportive. Like, we have this thing in Philly, and a lot of people talk about it, and it's discussed a lot, where it's like we're not supporting of one another. And people always talk about why we're one of the most slept on cities when it comes to music, when it comes to fashion, when it comes to these things. And it's mostly because when somebody does break out from Philly, we go hard for them, but we don't go hard like Atlanta goes hard for their people. And that's why the rappers in Atlanta get on and on. Like, we got a Lil Baby and we got Gunna, and we're going to keep getting more from Atlanta because they go hard behind their artists. Like, you can't pull up in Atlanta and say nothing about Gunna to nobody there. Like, they're gonna go crazy. Like, they go hard for their people, and we don't do that here so much. So I think that's really what it was. Like, when I got to Morgan and I saw, like, Black people loving on each other, and just, like, the women especially, like, I didn't know of, like, you know, Philly, I didn't know of any type of sisterhood or, like, womanhood when I was younger here. Like, again, I did leave Philly when I was, like, 18 years old. So going there and seeing, like, there's organizations dedicated to just sisterhood alone, that was something I wasn't familiar with yet. Like, I had my own sisters, and I was definitely just, like, it was really me. I'll say that. It was really me. I didn't know how to build healthy, really pure, genuine relationships with other women, like other women. Because, like, you know, in Philly, it was just drama and, like, all of that. And that's what I was used to. I was definitely the girl when I got to college that was like, oh, yeah, I'm not really friends with girls. Like, I like boys better, which is, like, it's just still kind of halfway true. But it's like, it was like, no, you just don't know how to build relationships with women and be genuine. So I had to learn that. It was me learning sisterhood, learning how to be a good person, learning how to be creative, learning that it's okay to just be me. That was what I, like, learned that there. So from then on, it was just like every year I feel like I just got more and more into myself. And by the time I graduated, I was like, oh yeah, I'm ready for anything. So yeah, that's really what it was.
So Blondie, was your experience growing up in the city, like, similar?
Growing up in Philly, if you are not aware of yourself and aware of, like, the danger zones you can spiral into, it's very easy to become a defensive person. Like, you just have to be on defense all the time from everyone and everything, whether it be because you got to catch 3 buses to get to high school, or you got to catch, you know, a bus to get to work, or to, like, you know, just anything. You got to go home and fight somebody. I fought my sisters and my cousins a lot growing up, so it's like sometimes the problem starts at home and in the house, and then you take that with you. And like Diamond was saying about not having influences and proper role models that can connect with you in the proper way, like, you really have a hard time just creating your identity, or understanding that there are healthy ways to create an identity that won't just be you copying what you think a woman should be, or, like, how a Black girl should be. Because for a long time, I thought a Black girl was supposed to be tough, and you supposed to be out here not fighting per se, but, you know, not to let nobody mess with you. Sure, so that just was the automatic, like, that was the starting point, which was kind of like 10. And I've calmed down a lot over the years. Like,
somebody told you that?
Told me what?
Nothing. Go ahead.
Look at you starting with me again.
Don't do that.
Look at you starting with me. And I just told you, listen, I am evolving. I'm not fully evolved yet. And that's for you. But yeah, it was, it took being on different teams and being around other women from all backgrounds and all races. Like, I remember going to college. I didn't go to, we went to a PWI. And I remember just always thinking everybody that was Black was from Philly. And I would meet somebody and they'd be like, yeah, I'm from Indiana. I'd be like, Indiana? What the fuck you doing over here? And, like, you know, like, just random stuff like that. It helped me understand how defensive and closed my mind was. Even with having experiences that were different from family members or people in my neighborhood, I still was reminded, like, oh yeah, you're a girl from Philly and you kind of need to, like, you know, you got to chill a little bit to make it in the world.
That make a lot of sense.
That's so real. That's so real. It's also people's like perception of Philly too. When you go to other places. Like I went to school in Baltimore, and even though Baltimore is not that much different, like they're kind of like our cousins low key, but like they have this perception of Philly, like Philly's so tough. So
who more thorough though, like Philly or
Philly, of course, of course.
They really do.
Yeah, like we're the best, but that's a conversation for another time.
The Philly girls and the Baltimore girls was going at it for a little while on Twitter.
Yeah, I remember. Was that during the pandemic or am I tripping?
It was.
See, but even little petty stuff like that, women going at it, it's like we're like it's stupid. Is a very learned, hardcore urban like culture. Because even Pittsburgh, I spent a lot of time in and out of Pittsburgh growing up, and I would tell them I was from Philly. They'd be like, "Oh, you from Philly? We gotta stay away from you." And I would be like, "Dang, I'm scared to talk to anybody here. Y'all talk about something. Y'all scared of me. I'm scared of y'all."
It's a little hard though. I ain't gonna lie. Like slightly hard. I mean, I ain't.
Huh?
Philly girls is slightly hard a little bit.
For good reason though, is what we're getting at here today.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. I agree.
Exactly. That's yeah. I think that's so real.
How has your toughness helped you in your career? Has it translated to your career, or do you feel like the Diamond that used to be doesn't even exist no more in that way?
Definitely, like I haven't fought in years. Definitely doesn't exist anymore in that way. But I think I think like that being from Philly, being a Black woman, all of those things definitely contribute to like my dominance in the workplace. Like I would say. And also, like, I work in a field where it's mostly men. Like, I work in a male-dominated field.
I didn't know that.
So,
I thought it was mostly women.
No.
In the creative field, it's mostly men?
In the music industry in general. The music industry, it's
okay,
mostly men. So, I always felt like, and I have a lot of brothers as well. Like, I have 6 brothers. Yeah. So, I always knew like how to like I grew up basically having to learn how to assert myself and like how to voice ideas and opinions amongst like groups of men. So I think it's definitely played a role for sure.
What I don't think this question it is on there. It was going to be the next question. We do good. You mean I was going because I really you feel what I'm saying? Is the creative space, the music space, is it a traditionally white space, or is it what is the demographic like? So you say it's men. Is it white men? Is it black? What has been your experience?
I think white men always are gonna have like control. When you think of like the very, very top, I think it's always a white man at some point. It's like I think that they're like, if you think about major record labels, even the Black owned ones for the most part, are like owned by so I think that they're always normally at the top. I feel like right now a lot of my meetings are a mix between like men, like all different types of races of men, but still mostly men. Like I feel like when I sit in meetings, for the most part, I'm looking across at men. Yeah.
What do you think the age range, or what have you noticed the age range is? Like, are they around our age, like the millennial, Gen Z, they the boomers? Like,
I feel like when you talk about like the upper leadership levels, they're looking now like a lot, like startup life is real right now. So you see a lot of companies that are still in like their startup years, which is like those first 10 years, they say. It's crazy to think about 10 years, 8 years. Yeah, people, it's crazy to think about like an 8-year company, but they still consider it a startup because you probably haven't even like possibly broke even. You think about places like
That's
Nike,
crazy to
like
think about.
like brands like Nike, they didn't break even for a long time before starting up. I think they were probably don't quote me, but maybe past the 10-year mark before they actually started breaking. Like Phil Knight actually started breaking even and like gaining income and like being able to live off of them. So like it takes a while. Like that's that phrase that they say is like how long it takes to blow up overnight is real, because it's like people think like, oh, it just became an instant success, but it took years. Like it takes years for people to get things moving and shaking. So what was the question initially?
The question, it was Blindy's
the age range.
Oh, the age range. Yes. So you'll see a lot of them in like the startup life. They'll be in their 30s or like 40s because like they're just like they're founders. They're starting things up. But I think like people in our generation, like those people in their 20s are really taking over the creative industry. Like you see it everywhere. Like Salehi Benberry being like the new creative director for Crocs, and just like people are just taking like I think young people are like taking over when it comes to the creative industry.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, as it should be. Yeah,
especially because young people really run the culture. Like it doesn't make sense to listen to a 60-year-old white man.
Yeah.
young people have the trends, have the ball for real, for real.
It's actually funny that you say that. And I was just talking about Nike because I was in a focus group for Nike. I probably can't say, but I was in a focus group for Nike a couple weeks ago, and they were basically doing research and development on Philadelphia, like the city, the culture, what makes things move here, like what Philly is all about. And they were just asking, like, what do you, like, if we had to take one thing away with us, like, what would you guys, it was a group of a lot of different creative people in Philly, and what would we want them to take away with them? And my answer was the youth make everything move in Philly. Like, nobody has more of an influence right now than Philly youth. And I was like, if y'all want something that's gonna blow up, you gotta like talk to them. Like, they are the ones. It is not even just about, you know, the I just want to rock or the Philly go. It's not even about that. I think for a long time, Philly youth has been setting the trend, the culture. Like, when, you know, Baltimore club music was a thing, we made dances to it. Wu-Tang, like all of those things, we've been like making crazy influence in the city. So and just the world. So yeah, I think the youth, I don't see like anything moving in the city without their say so.
So you talk about being in these spaces and being the voice in these spaces and being across the table from men. How have you found yourself having to make space for yourself because you are a woman, or feeling like ostracized at times because you are a woman? Like, what's that been like?
Yeah, I think it's normal. And then I also think that I'm still in like the infancy of my career, right? So I'm still learning a lot of things, and like I think a lot of it was like that, and also just having to check myself and be mindful, like, you gotta show up as who you are no matter what, like no matter who's in the room, no matter who's across from you. And it can be intimidating sometimes. Like I think it's talked about a lot with women in music and women in the music industry. Like a lot of times, and I have experienced it, men with power in the music industry, they'll do things to make you feel uncomfortable. They'll do things to make you not feel like yourself, or to make you feel weird in spaces, microaggressions, if you will. And that happens a lot, and that's very, very, very common. Like, I've been told in a lot of like professional work environments, oh, you're too emotional, or you're taking things too personally, which is like all things men say to women who are just voicing their opinions or sticking up for themselves. So I think that that's something that like I run into a lot. But yeah, it's been a learning process, and I'm still learning on just like, how do I show up as me no matter who's in the room. And teaching taught me that as well. Like, when you have to stand up in front of like a group of people, kids or not, like they're still humans, standing up in front of them and having to deliver a lesson and teach them and hold authority and stuff like that. Like, if I didn't have that, I would never be able to walk into Rec, which is now about to be a global company owned by Sean Diddy Combs, and like be able to voice ideas and advocate for myself, because I wouldn't have been able, like, I feel like if you can stand in front of a group of Philly kids and try to teach them something, you can stand in front of anybody in the world, because they'll tell you. They will tell you like plenty of times. So I think after that, it was like, all right, if I can do that, it's nothing that I can't do. And you know, like I came into like the school that I met you at, I came in like the end of the year. Like, it was like maybe like April of the year.
You had
so
to
like
fight back. You had to fight back.
I had to fight back. I had to like really hold space for myself in there, because like they were looking at me like, girl, it's the end of the year. We're not listening to you. And like James saw it firsthand of me like really having to like assert myself there. So yeah, after I did that, I felt like I could really do anything, but it's still a learning lesson. Like, I have what do they call it? It's like identity crisis sometimes, or just like sometimes I'm like,
like imposter syndrome.
Girl. That's what it is. It's like what? Who am I?
Okay.
Like,
am I even a real person?
Am I even a real person? Am I who I think I am? And like, I have those moments sometimes, because we're working in a big industry where everybody is doing something. Everybody wants to be in marketing. Everybody wants to be creative. Everybody has a thing that they want to sell. So working in an oversaturated market like that, especially being so young, I'm always thinking like, am I doing this right? Should I be doing this? I'm not where I want to be. And like, of course I have those thoughts, but yeah, it's all about just being present in this current space and remembering like if I would tell like senior year of college Diamond, like, yo, you're doing this now, she would think it was fire. And I think that's like the most important thing that you got to keep reminding yourself of.
That is fire. So you talk about a lot of the difficult times, like standing in front of Philly kids. That's definitely a top tier difficult time.
Yes.
or imposter syndrome, what's your mentality like, or your routine like to get you through the difficult times? You know, when like, I got to show up as my most authentic Diamond today.
Yeah, I think self-care is always real and like always something that everybody should be practicing, however that looks for you. And I have to be mindful of it. And it's something I actually was talking about the other day, where it's like, I'm a creative person and I love art and I love to consume different things. And it's hard for me because like I do it in my leisure and I also do it for work. So it's like I could be studying like a movie or something because we need like art direction for something for work. And then it's like, how do I differentiate that from when I'm just home and I want to chill and I want to watch a movie? And sometimes that's hard because as a marketer, which I'm sure a lot of marketers will relate, is like you analyze everything because everything we see is marketing. I'll be walking down the street looking at a billboard like, why did they say that? Like out of all copy to put on the billboard, why would they?
I was just about to say John Morgan.
Like, why? I hate the John Morgan thing. And then it's like also commercials as well, like watching TV and just in commercials. Like I love commercials. One of my dreams is to like actually creatively direct a commercial myself. So I'm always analyzing them like, you had 15 seconds and you did this. Like, or sometimes I'm like, that was fire. Like, so it's hard for me. But yeah, I think it's all about like setting boundaries with myself and allowing myself to enjoy things for just leisure. Having like, sometimes I'll like leave work, go home, open my laptop, start working again. And I have to catch myself in those moments because again, I'm still at the very, very start of my career and I don't want to get burnt out early on. Like I plan to have a very long career and do like amazing things in the industry. And I haven't even scratched the surface yet. So I don't want to be so burnt out where I'm like bitter, like, and I'm like in my 30s, like, and I hate the industry now because I've just burnt myself out and doing so much. So yeah, I try to give myself like dedicated time to just not doing work and like taking care of me.
I heard a quote. It was when your passion becomes your job, you got to find like a new passion or a new hobby.
Yes,
I think that's real true. Like that's something that you actually got to put work in to do because it's like my release is no longer my release.
Exactly.
I got to find something else now.
I agree.
I was going to ask you, like, what are some of your highlights so far in your career? We talked about a little bit about your childhood, how that's affected your career, your journey even through your internship. What are some of your other highlights thus far?
Yeah, I would say the biggest highlight of my career thus far was definitely joining the Rec team and then launching our rebrand for Sean Diddy Combs, or just Diddy.
Yeah, y'all know who that is?
Diddy, because he the homie.
Because he the homie. Y'all could just call him Diddy because he the homie. It's crazy.
Yeah, that was probably like the craziest. That was the craziest thing I've ever done. And also the biggest thing that I've done. It was a major thing. So I initially joined the team. They like found me. They brought me onto the team for that. Launch and for the rebrand. So for those watching, if you didn't know, Diddy invested $2 million in Rec for us to do a lot, but mostly to expand to Miami. So Rec Miami is coming very, very, very soon. So we're not just RecPhilly no more. We're just going by Rec now, which is crazy. But yeah, coming on to the team in that and like having to figure out how we were going to roll that out and announce that was the biggest time and the craziest time and like the most craziest experience. Like we had press and it was just like the biggest. We were on the Shade Room, we were on like Spiritual Word. It was crazy. So having to do that was amazing. That was definitely like a top 5 highlight of my career, because it just brought me closer to my team in general, and we love Diddy. I would say another one was South by. Like being able to go down to South by in this passing March was crazy. When I was in college and I used to see like everybody like in the industry, like would watch them on Instagram, I always wanted to do South by. I always wanted to do Art Basel. I always wanted to do A3C. Like those were like moments that I always wanted to go to. So being able to now have went to Art Basel and programmed at South by, we bought like a bunch of local artists, NXG, Andrea Valle, Rigo, There She Go, like a bunch of local artists. We got them to open up for Armani White South by. We had 2-night festival. First night, DJ Jazzy Jeff opened. Josh Lang, Val Fleury, and then second night was Armani White was a headliner. So that was an insane experience. Like I never would have thought that I would have been able to go to South by and market something so special this young and at like the start of my career. But yeah, that was like for sure. So I think all my like highlights right now come from Rec and come directly through Rec because it was like exactly where I wanted to land. Like I couldn't have asked for a better role. I'm always caught between like the creative part and the marketing part because they're similar but two different things. So to be able to land in a role where I get to do both has been really special and rewarding. And shout out to James. I don't know if he told y'all, but did he tell y'all that he's the reason I work at Rec, which is
JJ
crazy.
has a thing where he helps you in a way like that. He don't let you forget it.
Yeah,
so
I definitely give him credit, and it's funny because I tell this story all the time, but like now that he's in front of me, it's crazy. But yeah, shout out to you. Like I would not be working. Well, I would like to think that it was going to happen regardless because what's for you is for you. However, yeah, like James sent me the job at Rec, and for the longest time, imposter syndrome. We were just talking about it. I was like, I would never get this job. Like, I was like, they would never hire me. I'm never going to get it. And I just left the tab open on my laptop for weeks. It was such a long time. And finally, I was like, let me just apply. Like, and I started applying. And I remember one of the questions was like, what's your personal mission statement? And that took me forever. I was like, okay, now I'm not applying because I'm not about to think about that.
Okay? Like, it's already too much. It's already too much.
Now you're asking me to beg you.
You're doing a bit much.
Like I was like, okay, I'm not doing this because this is too much. So I closed out again, and then something just kept bringing me back to it. And I think you literally DM'd me and was like, "This would be a good fit for you," or like, "This would be good for you." And I was like, "He don't know nothing." And then I just let it sit for the longest.
People's spirits sometimes,
like,
man.
Listen,
dude, like honestly, but it was me just so in my self-doubt, like. Cause I was familiar with Rec already, and I was familiar with like them being at 9th and Dolphin in the warehouse and moving to 9th and Market. Like I was aware that they were like, you know, moving up, and I know that they worked with some big brands. So I was like, nah, they wouldn't. And then when I applied, I heard back almost immediately and interviewed. My first time coming in person was with the two founders, Will and Dave, and then the CFO, and we had an amazing conversation. Then they offered me the job the next day, and I was like, this is crazy. I was like, this is crazy. So yeah, ever since then, they opened me up like immediately. I think they have just like groomed me and have been just very intentional about like the rooms that they put me in because I've been learning so much. So yeah,
that's fire. I'm so proud of you, yo. Like really, you know, teacher to teacher, person to person. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Everything that's going on. We coming to the close of this, but before we do, I wanna ask y'all, like, when did y'all realize that spiritual word didn't have no spiritual words?
what?
Don't come for spiritual words.
My page, the page.
Yeah, I actually like spiritual words. Okay, they're like a little.
They keep me abreast on some current topics,
but it's not as messy as the Shade Room.
It's not.
Like the Shade Room is wow. Like the Shade Room will like come for people's kids and stuff like that. I'm not into that, but I think spiritual word like gives it to you in like the very bougie.
Yeah, like here's what's going on.
Exactly.
Like here's the recent mess.
Exactly. I like it. Don't come
it was
for
a
the
page about faith.
It's
not.
not.
When I followed the page,
I ain't gonna lie, I was a little confused when I would always see the logo down in the area, and I'm just like, this name don't match
this
what
ain't
I'm
Jesus.
saying. This ain't, I feel like an old head, like when Will of Fortune all of a sudden don't come on the scheduled time. Like this ain't what I'm supposed to be saying. But I'm like, all right, let me. It is what it is.
But yeah, anyway, back to the topic, yo. Where you looking to take it from here? What's your next, you know?
Ooh.
If you can speak on it, if you can't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I definitely see myself leaning more into the creative side. Like I told you guys before, I really want to touch more sectors. Like I love music. Music is always gonna be like my first love, my passion. But I love film as well. Like I'm obsessed with movies, obsessed with series. We were talking about A24 and like beef before this. I love everything A24 does. I'm obsessed with them. So I want to touch that. Like I would love to like musically supervise a movie, do a score.
That's fine,
I just want to touch film in that way. I also just love fashion blogs. I collect magazines a lot, so I would love to do something in the fashion realm, like work with Nike one day or something like that. So yeah, I would see myself doing a whole bunch of stuff before, like I'm never gonna be done, but I see myself doing a lot. Like recently I've been thinking a lot about artist management, because I've always had like a really good ear in A&R. It's like something that I've touched before, like but I've never fully, like I always like, do I want to call myself A&R, because I hate like the connotation that comes with it. But I love discovering new talent. I love working with independent talent and just like new and budding talent. Like that's what I really, really, really love. So that's what I hope. But one day I hope to have something of my own. I'm not sure what that looks like yet. But like working at Roc Nation, I loved it. But I knew that then that I probably will never work for a record label again. So I love creative agencies. I love distribution companies that are really like, United Masters, that are really like dedicated to helping artists own their masters, helping them with marketing services, helping them like make data driven decisions. I really like that. So I could see myself having something like that of my own one day, for sure. But yeah, like stay tuned, we never know.
Fire. And I want to get a shout out to you too before we close, because you taught me how to use Canva. And
oh
like I didn't know about
you taught
Canva.
him how to use Canva?
Yeah.
So I owe you a thank you too, because that's taking a load off of me. My man will shoot me graphics like, look, I put this together on Canva.
Yeah,
No. Like I'm a graphic designer now, yo.
Graphic designer now. I could add that to the
was
resume.
The funniest thing, like it was like teaching a kid something, and they keep coming to you showing you.
That's what
everything
he
they
said.
did. He would literally come to my classroom like Diamond, and like show me his laptop.
First
to show
couple
me
was
what he
ass,
did.
too.
That's what
She
I
wasn't-
said. Yo, the first
she
one
wasn't
he
feeling
said
And
to
he
me.
literally showed it to me. It was like, "How's this?" I was like, "This is terrible."
Yeah, he told me, he was like, yo,
Horrible.
he said, yeah, I showed her
Thinking she
today.
gonna
And
be-
she's
This
like, no,
is
that's not it.
terrible.
That's not it.
I'm thinking
That's
she
not
gonna be
it.
supportive and all that. You know, when somebody teach you a skill, and they gonna be soft around it and all that. I think she like, no, I wouldn't. I would actually just pay somebody. Like you can leave that alone. You can leave that alone. I'm like, no, I'm determined. Let me go back in the lab.
Yeah, no, for real though. But shout out to Canva is amazing. I think I taught Canva mostly when I was teaching like high schoolers digital media, because it's such like a tool that they can use for anything. You use it for video, you can use it to brand different things, teaching them how to create logos and like the meaning of a logo and how we like use it for branding purposes. So yeah, I love Canva. I feel like we're gonna have like a docu-series coming out real soon about like the woman who like is the CEO of Canva. I'm sure she has a crazy story. I want to know like how she created such a like easy accessible platform like for people that comes up like with like great quality content. So yeah, I'm interested in hearing more of the story of Canva.
Me too. Before we get out of here, do you have any advice for young women that you haven't given already? Young women who's trying to get into the creative field, the marketing field, like what would you tell them?
I would say always trust your intuition. Definitely always be kind, despite what people will tell you about the music industry, about how you have to be and how you have to move and all of that stuff. I would say be kind, be pure-hearted, connect with people genuinely, and hold those relationships close to your heart. And then I would say, like, on a creative tip and on a strategy or the marketing tip, don't do anything without a strategy. Like, I wish somebody would have beat that into my head earlier on in my career, but do nothing without a strategy. Do nothing without a plan. Like, down to the smallest tasks. If you want to, especially if you want to work in marketing and you want to just work in the creative industry in general, like have a plan for every project that you approach. And like, you don't have to stick to the plan, but just have a vision for how you want things to look. I think that's so important. And then the last thing I would say is, like, when it comes to data, working in marketing, numbers and all that stuff, what I like to say is that everything measurable isn't important and everything important isn't measurable. Meaning, don't get so caught up in the numbers. Do cool shit. Do dope shit. Can I curse?
There,
I'm so sorry. I don't think I cursed this whole time. Yeah, just do the stuff that makes you happy, that you want to do, and that you believe in. Like, don't get so caught up in the numbers of it all. I think that's super important for marketing, because everything is based off ROI and stuff like that. But like, yeah, sometimes there will be no return on investment, but sometimes you might leave a mark. So that's more important.
I usually don't ask questions after people drop their gem, but when you talked about the strategy, like have a strategy, what did you mean by that? I ain't really understand. Like, strategy,
just like plan. So if you know about marketing, marketing runs off of marketing strategies. So when you set a marketing strategy for a company that lives for about 3 to 5 years, that's a consistent living, breathing thing. And in that strategy, you break down everything. We break down your target audience. You break down what your actual value prop is, meaning what is it that you're offering down to the bottom line. Like, what is it? Like, what do people get? You do just like your SWOT, so your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Like, you go down and you really deep dive, because like marketing, especially for a creative agency, marketing is everything. Marketing is everything for any company. Like, if you don't have marketing, you have nothing. So it's like really thinking about who are we marketing to, what are we marketing, what do we want it to look like. You go everything down into like brand identity. So that's just on a high level example, but I approach every even project that I do like a small campaign, like something. An example is like, I don't even, if I think about a presentation that I have to do, for example, I don't even touch PowerPoint or none of that until I outline it into like a document and like start really strategizing around what I want every single thing to say before I just start making something. So I think that's what I mean by approach everything with a strategy and approach everything with a plan. But specifically in marketing, like you have your marketing strategy and then you have your marketing plan for each quarter. So we have a market, like at Rec, we have a marketing strategy. We're probably going to go by that marketing strategy for the next like 4 years. And then we have our marketing plan that we come up with every quarter. So it's like January, February, March. What are we doing in this month? What are our activations? What are our events? What are we doing? What are any type of marketing dollars that we're spending? We track all of that and we plan for that quarter, and then you repeat for the next 3 quarters of that year. So it really helps you to stay on track with what you're doing, and with, again, ROI, like how much are we spending and what are we getting back? Like, what are we investing? What are the cool things that we want to do, and how do we get there and make it effective? So I would say just that's for anything, like even the smallest thing, like even if you sell just bracelets, have a marketing strategy on what you're doing. And social media is not it. That's not what I mean. Like, a social media strategy lives in a marketing strategy. It's not the whole marketing strategy. Like, your whole marketing strategy should not just be your social media. Like, it has to be other things. Like everything that you see is marketing, how your brand talks, how y'all communicate, what y'all say and stuff like that. Like, all of that is in your marketing strategy. So yeah, that's what I mean by like always have a plan and like a way that you're approaching things.
That was beautiful. That was the answer I was looking for times 1,000. You feel what I'm saying? Like, you really went into it exactly, and I really appreciate you. The first person ever to drop a double gem.
Ooh.
You feel what I'm saying? A gem off a gem.
Setting trends.
Yeah. So like, we really want to thank you for that.
Thank y'all.
Yeah. I was taking notes. He asked for females for the advice, and I'm over here like in my head.
As soon as you started talking, he took his glasses and pushed them up.
I'm screaming.
No, seriously, because I'm like, okay, all right, I'm following.
Screaming.
No, for sure, that was great.
I'm glad.
It's going to be changed in the winners culture because you came. You feel what I'm saying? Like 1,000%. And we also want to thank you again because you made our one sheet.
For FX.
Yeah, you feel what I'm saying? So it's
forgot about that. I don't know how, because you just asked me to send it a couple days ago.
Yeah, it's fire too.
Thank
you. Really did
thank
that.
you. Thank you. Yeah, no, shout out to y'all.
Thank you.
Y'all, no, seriously, this has been amazing. Y'all, this is my first time ever doing something like this. Like, I've been on a podcast, but only like audio. So this is my first time like
on video,
being on camera and like talking to people live, or not technically not live.
You spoke beautifully.
Really? Thank you. Yeah, no, y'all made me feel very comfortable. Shout out to y'all.
That's appreciated.
This was amazing.
We definitely appreciate you coming. Definitely appreciate you shedding some insight and giving us a lot of positive feedback to take away from this, for sure. For the people that want to reach out with you, connect with you, follow your journey, where can they follow you at?
Yeah, so I'm on all social media. It's just at Diamond Durant. Durant, like Kevin, last name. Not related to Kevin though.
Somebody gonna ask.
No, people ask daily. I am not related to Kevin. But yes, that is my last name, Diamond Durant, on everything, and then email at diamond@RecPhilly.com.
Solid.
Fire.
Again, appreciate you for coming. Shout out to Studio 524 Philly for producing the podcast. Please, like I always tell y'all, send this to y'all grandmoms, send this to y'all dads, y'all cousins and them. Make sure to follow us on all our social platforms at The Winners Culture. And then until next time, y'all, we out.